Issues with entering exponents. For the most part, entering exponents on your calculator is pretty straightforward, but there are some situations where you need to be a little bit careful, and we're going to look at 4 examples here. First 2 of which are pretty straightforward, the third of which can be tricky, and the fourth of which you definitely have to be careful about. So if we look at example 1 here, it asks us to simplify the expression 3 to the second power, or 3 squared. On our calculator, we can press the 3, and we can press the power key on the right hand side, at what we call the caret key, kind of looks like the roof of a house, and then the 2, and then press enter, and we get 9. Now when the power is specifically 2, or the square, we do have a shortcut key. We also could have pressed 3, and then on the left hand side of the calculator we could have used the x squared key, which is a shortcut to get a power of 2, and enter. And that also gives us 9. So that just saves a keystroke and unclutters the screen when things are a little bit more complicated. Okay, let's look at example 2. Here we are asked to simplify 3 to the 5th. Very similar to the previous example, except here we don't have a shortcut key. So we're going to have to press 3 first for the base, and then the power key, and then 5. We can kind of read that as 3 to the 5th. And we'll press enter, and the calculator will take 3, multiply it by itself a total of 5 times, and get 243. Now the third example involves a negative exponent. Here we have 3 to the negative third. And what I suggest you do when you have things a little bit more complicated in that exponent, in this case a negative, that you use parentheses for the exponent. So I'm going to press 3 and then to the, that caret key. I'm going to open up a left parenthesis, press the negative key, and then we'll press the 3, and then I'll close with a right parenthesis and press enter. And that'll give me the answer 0.037037037. It looks like an infinitely repeating decimal, which implies that it probably has a fractional equivalent. So to see if we can't figure out what that fraction is, we'll press the math key and choose option 1, which is convert to a fraction. And that'll take the immediately preceding answer and attempt to convert it to a fraction. If it can, we'll get the fraction. If it can't, we'll just get the decimal back. In this case, since we got a fraction, we know that we could convert it, obviously. So 3 to the negative third is the same thing as 1 over 27. And if we think about how negative exponents work, we can show that 3 to the negative third power is the same thing as 1 over 3 to the positive 3 power, or 1 over 27. Now technically with the calculator, when you're raising to a negative exponent like this, you don't have to use the parentheses, but I recommend that you get in the habit of doing it. As we're going to see in example 4, there are cases where you absolutely have to use the parentheses, and these are not the only cases, but these are examples of cases where you have to use the parentheses to enforce order of operations. In example 4, we're going to take 3 to the 1/2 power, the same thing as looking at the square root of 3. So if we take 3 and raise it to the 1/2 power, and do this without any parentheses, and press enter once we have 3 to the 1/2 in there, we get the answer 1.5, which is not the square root of 3. What the calculator has actually done under order of operations is done the exponent first. So it took 3 to the first power, which is 3, and then it did the division second. So it took 3 divided by 2 to get 1.5, or 3 halves equivalently. If we really want the calculator to raise 3 to the 1/2 power, we have to force the calculator to do the 1/2 division first and then do the exponent second. And we'll use parentheses to do that. So we're going to take 3 and we're going to raise it. Now we're going to use a left parenthesis, put 1 divided by 2, and then we'll close on the right hand side and press enter. In this case, we get the value 1.732050808. There's an infinite number of decimal places to this value, actually, and there is never a repeating sequence. This is an irrational number, and we can either put it in decimal form or we can express it 3 to the 1/2 or the square root of 3. Some other examples of situations where you'll need to use parentheses are whenever you have an operation, like here the division, but also addition, subtraction, multiplication, that needs to happen first before the exponent part is actually taken care of. So parentheses are very important to enforcing the rules of order of operations, which has been said in other videos. The calculator is very good at it and will do it exactly what you tell it to do, which isn't always what you think you've told it to do. So please be careful.